Hi, I'm Anika Apple, and welcome to the Divine Guidance for the month of September. I'm so glad that you have taken a moment to utilize the information in this video to prepare you for what is to come. September's update is going to be a lot about what's happening in September, but it is going to foreshadow a lot of what's to come over the next time frame, mostly in the next 6 to 18 months. I have a lot to talk about today. There are just a couple of main topics. However, there's a lot of information to be shared. So buckle up as we prepare. For those of you that haven't had the opportunity to connect with me yet, again, I'm Anika Apple. I am a trusted advisor, a coach, consultant, and I am truly here to teach and demonstrate love for humanity, to help people see themselves and each other, to see and protect our children, to support people on their healing journeys and ensure that they are on their path to purpose, and to ensure that God's goodness prevails. You will hear me throughout this video talk a lot about God because that is what I believe. And I recognize that God is a God of love. And that truly, that from a religious standpoint, all of us are bound by love. That is how we're all connected. We're all a part of humanity. And so regardless of your religious beliefs, this spiritually based conversation, video, information is for you. And as always, I always encourage everyone who's viewing, and really in any part of your life, whenever you hear information that comes forward spiritually, you should always be checking that back with your higher power. So for me, every time I hear a prophetic word or anything like that, I'm always taking it back to God. I'm always going back to God to check the guidance that I might receive from other people, opinions and perspective that I might hear. If it doesn't come directly from God, it goes back to God for validation. And so I encourage you to do that with anything that you hear here and anytime you are in a situation where you might be hearing information from people. So you can learn a lot more about me and the work that I do via my website, which is anikaapple.com. You'll find out some information there about the coaching services that I offer. I also am a public speaker, and clearly I am here because I am a prophet, and it is my blessing and honor to serve God in the way that I do by bringing forward information and messages to help you be prepared for your path to live your best life, and ideally to help you ensure that you are being connected with God. For many of you, that means reconnecting with your higher power, and for others, it may mean just providing some guidance along your path. So again, welcome, and let's go ahead and get into the message. So first and foremost, the month of September, God has said, is a significant month. It's a month of significance. And that means that it is a month that we will remember, right? So it's important to keep that in mind as we go through the different themes. And I think what you'll see is that the themes don't overlap exactly with one another because there's a lot happening in our world. A lot of shifts are happening starting in September and will through the balance of this year and into the first half of next year. But there is some common thread. If you've had the opportunity to watch the last couple of months, you've kind of seen us progress as we've talked about, like people ultimately making their decisions of if they serve light or dark and all of those different things. You heard me talk about the way that there will be continued revealing, that the things that we have grounded ourselves on and believed to be true, it's almost like someone is pulling a thread and those things are unraveling. We are going to see a lot more of that unraveling in the month of September. As a matter of fact, it is going to happen at such an intense level in this month and the months following in the balance of this year that it is going to be, by the time we get to December, we will look back like, how did all of that happen? How did we even manage all of those different things happening in this short of time frame? That is how significant this month is and the time up ahead for us. There will be just a lot of shifts. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is that this is a time of action. And when you think about taking action, immediately you go probably to some of the places in your life where it's like, oh, I've been waiting to do this or wanting to do this thing. Those things are true. Hold those to the side. First, what I want to illuminate for you is that when God is talking about this being a time of action, it's not just about you doing things outside of yourself. It starts with the action you're taking on your own behalf. Are you doing the things that you need to take care of your health? Are you doing the things that you need to take care of yourself spiritually? How are you focused on the things that have been coming up over and over and over again for you? Are you making advancements there? Where you have not made the kind of advancements that you desire, this is the time for you to scrap all of the other plans and start from scratch. Create a plan that you are going to stick to do the things that are important to take care of you. This could not come at a more critical time, because for those that have been doing the work, it will be an easy transition for you into the things to come. Once we do the work on the inside, it's easier to look outside of ourselves and make sure that we are prepared for all of the things that are happening around us. But when we have not done the work on ourselves, we've got a bit of catch up to do. The good thing for you is that this is also a time where God says we will be leaping and launching. So there will be a lot of forward progression. Things are going to move along quickly. In some cases, the kind of effort that it would normally take for something to happen won't be required, but that doesn't mean that you should delay. Ideally, you go right into this month coming right off of the holiday. For those of you who live in the United States, come right out of the holiday weekend and roll right into your new regimen or into the things that you've been committing to do. Make those doctor's appointments that you've not made. Go see the dentist. Do the things that you know are important and critical to take care of yourself. And, if you are in a household with other people, I would encourage you to do the same. When we think about leaping and launching, let's start with leaping. So in many cases, we find ourselves like kind of trotting along, right? We're moving at somewhat feels like a snail's pace a lot of the time. What you're going to find is in the things where it feels like you've been inching along over time, that you start to take leaps forward. Things become easier. The doors that have been closed before and for a long time seem to open. Where you have had writer's block or you've not been able to find funding, you're going to find that those things start to flow to you. That's a really exciting thing. And for many of you that have been doing the work, and when I say doing the work, understand that that's not just about the actual activity, but that also is about your being. So some of you know exactly what I mean, that your being and being still and present and hearing from God and then being obedient to what God is saying, that is as important as for some people who are in a stage where taking action has been required. So where you have been in obedience, where you're doing the things and you're prepared for the opportunities that are going to arise, you are going to find yourself launching. Launching is exciting. I am excited that this is a time of leaping and launching, quite honestly, because God has been telling me that it's about time for my launch. And so when God gave me this theme for today, I was especially excited because I'm ready to launch. At least I'm as ready as I think I am, and obviously God is supporting the gap that is there, which is such a blessing about having a relationship with God. I digress. So in this time of leaping and launching, what you want to do is make sure that you have a plan to pay attention to the details. Now, for those of you who know me personally, you'll be like, oh, this is one of her favorites. Like, attention to detail is definitely not Anika's favorite thing. But here is the thing. I journal. And in my talking to God, quite often I ask God to bring back to me those things that I may have missed or forgotten. Inevitably, God will show me which journal will help me flip to the pages, will remind me of a conversation. I will dream about someone who was involved in whatever the thing is that needs to come back to my remembrance will call. And so I share that with you to say, don't forget that you have the resource of your higher power, that you have the resource of the divine to say, bring these things back to my memory. But things are going to be moving so quickly in the month of September and through the balance of the year that you will want to be able to put your hands on any information that you have been given divinely. So if there are prophetic words that have been released to you, if there are notes that you have been journaling, if you've been reading a particular passage in the Bible over and over again, make sure you're keeping those things on hand so that you have them there for quick reference. Going back to funding, some of the opportunities that have that have been missing, and even ones that may have turned you down before, are going to become available to you. Keep your eyes open. You know how what's coming to mind right now is like how when you go to sign up for something and they're like, watch this space, there'll be more information that gets loaded. This is that. Watch this space. Think about the things that you have been interested in doing before, connections and collaborations that you have been interested in. Maybe you had the opportunity to discuss them, but unfortunately things didn't come to pass. This is a time where a lot of those things are going to happen, and they will happen quickly if you are prepared. For some of you who are watching this video, you will remember a time where God had you preparing for things, and then it seemed like the instruction around that thing went silent. If you did the work, then you have a plan, you have a business plan, you have a strategy, you've already created a space for the activities that are to come. So when these opportunities start to present themselves, you know exactly what to go back to and do. And then for others of you who are watching this, particularly who watch this at mid-month, you should be expecting someone to come out of the blue to say, you know, I've been looking for someone who has the ability to do XYZ. And then there you are with your plan. The reason that this is coming forward for mid-month is because as the activity starts and people see the resourcing that is available, people are going to begin to look feverishly for people who can help them complete the process that they have. What I keep seeing over and over again is like someone who wants to make a movie, and they are looking for someone who is ideally a director and has a script that's already prepared. And so it's like they're looking, they need content, and then in conversation it comes up and you're like, oh, that's me. I've been writing a script, I'm ready. And then the opportunity will present itself, and then you will be, next thing you know, you'll be making a movie. And so that's what I'm hearing right now, and mid-month is that timing. So the time is now, it's a time of action. There's going to be leaping and launching, and this is also a time for the fall harvest. So many of you have been planting for a long time. You might even feel like you have been sowing, and you have been nurturing, and you have been weeding and all of those things, and watching and waiting for something to sprout. And you might have seen a little bit of sprout coming up out of the ground, but you're like, that is not enough for a harvest. Well, this is a time where you are going to turn around, turn back again to look, and you are going to see these huge plants that are full of fruits and vegetables that are ready for the harvest. This is a time of harvest. Now, in truth, it's not a time of harvest for everyone. I'm being reminded right now of a scripture in the Bible that talks about how we're heading into a time where people who have been the ones creating the wine are going to be the ones who drink it. That it will not be foreigners, and foreigners is used as a term in the Bible, but foreigners who are the ones drinking the wine, meaning other people are not going to be reaping all the benefits of the work that you have done. That is a significant shift for many people. And what I would tell you is that for those who have felt some level of frustration because it feels like you're always the one doing and other people are getting the benefits from it, check your attitude. Do it right now in this moment. Pause the video if you need to. Do not allow the feeling of waiting to convince you that there is a reason to have attitude or frustration or anger or resentment or any of those things for other people who look like they have flourished in the time. You may have been called to plant so that they could have a strong harvest in that time. You may have been called to plant so that you could be one who provides provisions. None of that stands in the way of you still receiving your harvest. You can still be the recipient of what is for you, even though God used you to support others along the journey. Ask me how I know. So it's important that you don't allow that to turn your heart. It shouldn't change the way you behave. Quite frankly, that's who we were called to be. We are a part of humanity. We live in communities. We are here to support one another. What someone doesn't have in gifting, you may have, and we are expected to work together. And as a matter of fact, that kind of attitude and behavior is what is going to carry us through what is to come. So I meant it when I said pause the video. If you are feeling any kind of resentment in your heart, do it now. Don't go further into this message without allowing that to be released from you. Repent, whatever it is that you need to do that gives you alignment with the divine, that's what you need to do in this moment. Now, the reason that is so important is because our attitude matters. We don't recognize that when we harbor feelings and frustration and anger and those things, that it indeed blocks our blessings. Why? Because it stands in the way of us doing the actions that we would naturally take when we are in a state of peace and of love and when we are healed. And it's like let's say with the harvest. So you planted these seeds, and let's say that you planted seeds and everything. You planted a garden for yourself, and you also have planted a garden for your neighbors because perhaps they're unable to garden, or maybe they just asked you to help and you don't know why, but you did because at the time you were like, sure, I'll help out, but you didn't know that they were going to ask you to watch over the garden and water it and all that stuff for the entire year. So at this point, you may not have started off at a place where you were frustrated, but at this point, maybe you were at the point where you're ready to become frustrated. Well, let's say you're tending to the garden, but each time you're working on yours, you're working on theirs, you're spewing negativity. That negative energy is going. What happens if you send a lot of negative energy at a living thing? It's going to shrink and eventually shrivel, and then it will die. And that's what we run the risk of if we allow the feelings and emotions that sometimes come up to fester and to grow. Our own spirits will change. Where you were the person who was generous and kind and thoughtful, you have become someone now that you don't recognize. And in those situations, the divine doesn't recognize us either, because we're not operating in a way that is in alignment with who we were created to be, nor are we good reflections of the God that we serve. So ensure that you are checking your emotions. And that dovetails us right into the next theme, which is that this is a time of forgiveness and reconciliation. This is going to last heavily for about 6 months. What I would encourage you to do is that if there are any places in your life, as a matter of fact, as you're listening to this, I see you seeing faces and hearing names and remembering situations that you know are still aggravating you. And many of you will walk away from this call and you'll go and you'll write your list, because that's the instruction that's coming forth in a moment. But either way, spend the time to dig into where forgiveness is needed and where reconciliation is beneficial for your heart. Reconciliation is not about needing something that someone has. It's not about doing it to save face, to put on a facade. It's not because people think it's the right way that you should operate, like you're estranged from a parent or a child and people are like, well, you shouldn't be like that, and so therefore you need to do it for that. No. It is true that you want to be reconciled onto one another, but you don't do it for the sake of how it looks. This is about your heart. And in the way I just described the 2 gardens in that example, this is about you working on yourself and ensuring that you are in position for what it is that is being provided and available to you. We are not meant to spend our lives angry and frustrated and separated from one another. We are coming up on a time where we are going to need each other. And when I say need each other, I mean need each other. There are things that are going to happen throughout the next 18 months that the world has never experienced before. And in so many cases, your ability to navigate through is going to be connected to the relationships that you have built with people. This is not only about great opportunities where, you're talking about a business flourishing or things like that. This is about livelihood. This could be about your food. This could be about well-being. This could be about safe haven. They're all different things that are opportunities that may arise in your life, in your individual circumstances, where having reconciled with people will be beneficial. Not because you have made the relationship right with them for the sake of, but because your heart is in such a place that it is easier for you to let go of the harm and things that you've experienced in the past and be present in the way the divine calls us to. For example, let's say that you have had a frustrating relationship with a sibling. And in the months to come, that sibling goes through something and they are without a home. And you have plenty of space to offer. Well, the first thing that happens is you have to search your heart. Can you find it within yourself to allow the person to come stay with you? And if you do, what's the behavior like? How do you treat them? It's easy for me to go to examples and to scripture. Do you treat them in the way that God expects us to treat one another? Do you love each other in the way that Christ loved the church? That's what God is looking for from us. And again, the way that we treat people and how things fester in our hearts is going to show up. It will be present in the words that we speak. And when we speak words that are unkind, we're speaking death. You have a choice of if you want to speak life or death, light or darkness. And so the words that come forward are going to be representative of the conditions that are in existence in your heart. The other thing that's really important is that for many of you, this time is one of incredible blessing. And do you want to be in a place of incredible blessing with all of these wonderful things happening, things that you've been praying about and dreaming about? Do you want them to all happen and still know that your posture in your heart is not right? How long can those things last? How long can they be sustained if you know that there is work to do on the inside that hasn't been done? Lastly, when we struggle with unforgiveness in particular, it takes a massive toll on your health and well-being. Conditions, medical conditions, physical conditions that we experience are connected to negativity. They're connected to the negative energy, the things that you hold. You hear of people who have had ulcers, who had anxiety and have been ridden with stress and things like that. There are physical manifestations for conditions, for emotional and mental conditions that we experience. The emotions that we choke down in our bodies are toxic to us. And so when you have the opportunity, like what you have right now, to heal, to create connectivity, to be reconciled onto one another, this is the time to do it. Lastly, I would say to you, I pause because I'm like, are you sure you want to say this? But you come here for truth, and I'm going to give you truth. There are going to be a lot of deaths. A lot. In September, in November, in December, we're going to see it throughout the next 18 months. We're going to see a lot. Heavy in September, heavy in November, heavy in December. And I know this, that if you are watching this video, then you should be aware wherever there is opportunity for you to reconcile with people that you haven't, because tomorrow simply is not promised. And I don't say that in a glib way. I don't say that in a way I'm saying this just because it is the truth. You have an opportunity to reconcile. If you watch any of the people, if you've watched people and experienced the grief that so many people went through during COVID, where not only was it their loved one taken from them, losing them, but where many were in hospitals and they couldn't be at their bedside in those last moments, where the person went into the hospital and they thought maybe they'd be there for a day or two, and they were there for weeks, and eventually they moved on and they never got to see them again. That's incredibly painful. And for many people, they didn't know that that kind of thing was even possible, that it was on the horizon. And you stopped by to listen to this video, so you should know it is coming again. Don't allow whatever might be plaguing you to stand in the way of you working through your forgiveness. Now, how you do that maybe about conversations with people, maybe about hashing things out, and maybe just doing your own inner work to be able to release and reconcile the things that have happened. The one tip I will give you is that if you can remember that each and every one of us is here to teach each other lessons, you can release some of the pain associated with it. If you've ever read the 4 Agreements, it talks about not taking things personally. And you're like, but this, you don't know what this person did to me and why I feel that way. You're right, I don't know. And you don't know either. You know how you feel, and you're right to feel however you feel, but you don't know why either. Everything that happens to us was required to make us who we are today in this moment. And who we are today in this moment is preparation for who we are to become. In many cases, some of the most traumatic things happen to us have put us on a path to purpose that is undeniable. And because we are fueled by things that we experienced, we are the right people to take a stand, to create something new, to bring healing to people in areas where we've experienced trauma. I'm not forgiving
or excusing anything that's happened to you. And I would say to you, I'm sorry for anything that you experience that has been hurtful and painful, especially for those things that seem impossible to release. I'm sorry on behalf of the other people of humanity who have hurt you or injured you. And I want you to not hurt or injure yourself anymore, to make the decision not to allow yourself to continue to have that pain, the discomfort, the unforgiveness, the desire for reconciliation sitting in the back of your unconscious, which is why you still have any emotion about it at all. This is your time. Make your list and ask the divine how to do the work. Pray to God and ask God to show you what to do, how to release those things. Don't miss this window of opportunity to do the work for yourself. You now know that it is here. You know what's to come, and the choice is in your hands.
The last theme is the changing of the guards. And this theme comes with a lot of emotion for me. There's some excitement and happiness and joy about what changing of the guard means. And at the same time, it's sorrowful and somber for me. There's a lot of change that's going to happen, some in significant September, much to come in the months to follow into the beginning of next year. And what the changing of the guard looks like is that there are many people and roles that are shifted. Some of them will happen in a way that is simply unbelievable to us. We are like, how did that happen? In many cases, systems that we have been dependent upon will simply not exist. Many people who are in positions of power, as the continued exposure season happens, they will be found to be not sound judgment, sound mind, and removed from places of responsibility. There will be some big powerhouse organizations and companies that begin to transition. Some will be bought out, some will be sold, some will be dismantled, some will almost seemingly disappear. There has never been a time like this in our history before. I cannot say it enough. There's a lot of change, and God is reminding me right now to say, and it's all in the Bible. You can find it all in the Bible. There's never been a time like this before. And with these significant shifts that are going to happen, there's lots of opportunity. I see people being propelled into places of leadership where it's almost like if you were looking at an organization and you look at like the senior leaders on the team, and maybe there's 15 of them, and then there's a couple people who are backups to them, and then there's backups to the backup. It's like calling the backup to the backup to say, we need you. You're now coming into the big room, right? You're coming up to the place where the decisions are being made. It's going to be like that. Sit tight. Many of you, it's going to be a roller coaster ride propelling you to where you are supposed to be so that you can do the work that you've been assigned to do. In other cases, we will be needed to hold the hands of those for whom the dismantling has had a significant impact. There is a lot coming. How do you get through this time? It's a great question. 1, be super clear about who you are and your alignment to your higher power. Be grounded in what you know is true. When you're unsure about truth, take it back only to the divine. Take it to your higher power. Talk to God. Pray about it. Spend less time listening to and absorbing information coming from others and more time in your Bible, in whatever, religious work that you believe in. Spend your time there. Spend your time in conversation, real conversation with your higher power. That's critical. Be grounded in who you are, regardless of what other people are encouraging you to do or believe. Be of sound judgment. Be a person of integrity. Be someone who is unmovable when it comes to your values. Do the right thing. And work on the reliance that you have of others, slowly pulling it back to yourself. One of the examples that I have for you is around food. We already know that there's lots of things happening. I mean, I'm sure that you had seen the news that's coming out around COVID and another vaccine and things like that. And we've known that that was coming for a long time. There's been some conversation around famine. I don't know how much you may have heard it from other people. I try not to spend a lot of time listening to the words of others because I always want it to come through purely. I have been talking about famine for over a year now, and it is on its way. What's interesting is that what we are going to begin seeing is more infiltration in things that are produced in warehousing. So we will see an uptick in recalls. We're going to find food that has been tampered with at a level that we are unaccustomed to. The infiltration of food is pervasive. And another thing that we will see are crops that have just been demolished by different things. Like they've been demolished by bugs and things like that. It's at a level that is like, the only thing that I can think of is like locust swarming. Like they're just devoured. And where it looked like we were going to have a plethora of that particular crop, where it's demolished. The meat is also going to have an issue. I mean, I think you may be aware of that already, but there are definitely concerns about meat. It's not surprising that there's already some more, meat substitutes that are being approved, or meat that has been created, not from being an animal, that is in the works right now. And that's not by accident, because there is knowledge that there are issues with our meat today, and there's going to continue to be contaminants there. This is a really challenging time, and if you approach eating from the recognition that our food is under attack, it will begin to shift your mind. As always, pray, ask for the guidance. But what you should know is that you will want to be really careful about the sources of your food, who is making it, who's producing it, where it's coming from, if it's imported, where it's coming from. All of those kinds of things are important for you to pay attention to. This would be a great time to start on your garden, if you've planned one and you haven't done so, this would be a great time to grow your own fruits and vegetables. It would be a great time to work in a community, to set up a neighborhood farm. It would be a great time to create a co-op. It would be a great time to just discuss with other people, your neighbors, the things that they like to do and build and create, and the things that you like to do and build and create, because you don't know when those things will come in handy. So that's really important. The preparing your gardens was specific instruction that God gave. I'm just looking at my notes. And so that's one thing that you should definitely heed. The other thing that I will tell you is, as I was preparing for this message, what I saw was a tidal wave. I can't tell you where because I don't know where, but it was massive. It was a massive tidal wave, and it was just sweeping through this city or town. It looked more like a town, but there were large buildings, but not the kind of concentration you see in a big city center, but just lots. And it was just going. It was just, the waves were rolling and cars and vans were being picked up. This was more than what is being experienced by the hurricanes. It was so significant. And it took me back to a vision that I had a couple of years ago, where, people were like just kind of running all in one direction, and then something happened. And then, as they were it looked like they were about to get to safety, and then this event happened, and then they had to quickly turn around and go in the opposite direction. It took me right back to that moment, even though when I had that initial vision, I didn't see the tidal wave. So there is something coming. There are lots of things, lots of natural disasters that we are going to continue to experience. I know you're seeing some now. Expect that to become more commonplace, which again is why it's so important. We just don't have a full understanding of everything that's happening, which is why all of the guidance in this video is so important. The last thing, and I am to tell you as well, that there is going to be more war. And whether that is in September or in the months to follow, I'm not confirming, but you can expect to hear a lot more about preparation for it in the month of September. That said, I want to come back to this last piece of it's in the Bible. Again, I honor that there are people who are not of the Christian faith who listen to the videos. Please, you are welcome. Please continue to come here for the truth and information, because this is not about religion. This truly is about spirituality. I'm going to share this though, because God is impressing upon me to say that these things are in the Bible. So for those of you who choose to read, you can find and see the synergy with what is said in the Word, with what we're seeing happening here. And whatever it is that you are looking for, if you simply ask, you will be directed to those things so that you can gain an understanding. When we open ourselves up, and I know this is true of every religion, and say, I want fresh revelation, I want to have a good understanding of this, not leaning on my own understanding, but let me see with your eyes, let me understand through you. We receive what we ask for. When we have not received, it's because we haven't asked, and or we ask from a place of not genuinely believing. We don't really want to know. What I'm encouraging you to do is to be clear that you do want to know, and that you are desiring the information to come in a way that you can read it. Be specific about what you're asking for and watch the answer come forward. But if it's in the Bible that tells us that this is already a plan, it was already going to come, it's already going to come to pass. It's like going to watch a movie and someone has given you a spoiler. If you know what's going to happen, then when you start to hear that noise coming and things are creaking and stuff like that, you can prepare yourself for what's about to happen. You have the truth that I've shared with you. You can leverage the Word to be a place of information, and your relationship with the divine, starting to trust in your own knowing, starting to trust in your own gifting. As you use those things together, you'll have a better understanding of how to prepare yourself. We don't get all of the answers, each individually, But what we can have is clarity on what we are supposed to do, what specific actions are each of us supposed to take. And that is what I encourage you to make sure you are grounding yourself in. So that is it for the guidance for the month of September. I know that this has been a lot. It is not lost on me that I've shared some things that likely shake you up a bit, but I would rather that you come here and you hear the truth unfiltered so that you can step away and prepare yourself. This is real. This is the time that we live in. It is our experience. It's the life that we're living. And we're blessed to have some insight into what is to come so that we can prepare ourselves. If there was absolutely nothing we can do, I am almost assured that we wouldn't have the information. Why would we need it? But the fact that we do, that this insight has been given to us, that means that there is an opportunity for preparation for us, and perhaps prayer and petitioning for anything that doesn't have to happen to be stopped. That's what I believe to be true. So I thank you for joining me for this month's guidance. I want to invite you to get to know more about me. Again, you can find me at anikaapple.com. I am again, as I mentioned earlier, a trusted advisor, and I am currently taking clients on who are looking for the advisorship support. My support for them is not specifically around the divine guidance that I receive, although that is a part of what's included in the packaging. But with more than 25 plus years of experience in business leadership and people leadership, I come with a lot of experience in how to run a business and also how to get people on board. I've run several organizations. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are in my wheelhouse as well. And so a plethora of knowledge and some really unique gifts and assessments that I bring to the advisorship program. So if you'd like to know more about that, go to my website at anikaapple.com. And if you fill out the comments on the bottom of the first page, you can send me your email information and I'm happy to connect back with you so that we can talk about the packages that are available. The other thing that I'm so excited to be able to share with you is that we are launching a healing crusade. And so this is a 3-year healing crusade. And it starts officially, we start our first healing challenge on September 11th. I'm really excited that starting next week, you'll be able to go online and sign up for the healing crusade. You can find this again on my website and it will direct you to the information. And membership will be open starting next week on the 5th of September. So you'll be able to go online and join us in the crusade. But we are going to spend the next 3 years focused on healing. And how we're going to do that, we have healing challenges, we've got workbook affirmations, courses, fireside chats, guest speakers, all of these different resources coming together to help you to go deep on the places where you want to address your healing. This is guidance for you as you do self-directed healing, which is amazing. My goal at the end of this is that you feel so confident in what it is that you have been addressing, what core areas you identified as places of work, that you know you can continue the journey on your own. At the end of the day, we have the knowledge and ability to do anything. It is already here. Part of my role is to help you remember what you already know and to see yourself in ways that perhaps you may not be used to seeing yourself, to give you perspective that you may not be used to hearing, to trigger you to think in a different way. So we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to do a lot of really good work. I tell everybody we're going to go wide and then we're going to go deep on these different topics. And there is going to be a lot of blessing in the community. It's interesting because I launched a private invitation and my first of 2 sessions was yesterday with my inner circle, some of the people closest to me. And I closed the session by saying that we are in a time of miracles. And immediately following the call, there was a miracle. It happened just like that within 5 minutes of closing our session down. I already know that that is an example of things to come, that people will come, they will do the work, and they will find their healing. And there's nothing like investing in yourself, making the decision that you are going to heal you, and then seeing the success happen. So, and I am honored to be able to bring you along on that journey. Again, it's called the Healing Crusade, and you can find more information about it on my website. And if you come back on September 5th, you will be able to just go in and select the right level of membership for you. And all the information is there. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly. But we look forward to seeing you as a part of the community. And as always, I look for you to come back again in the month of October for the monthly guidance. Make sure that you subscribe. If you haven't done that, you will not want to miss the information and truth that comes through these divine monthly guidance messages. We're also changing the timing of when they're released. So, which, thank you, God, was my request. My petition to God was, can we do them at the beginning of the month? Which is a different cadence than what God was doing before. Some of current month and then foreshadowing the next month. But I'm grateful that God has given us the opportunity to get more time with what's happening in the immediacy of that month by moving it up early in the month. So again, thank you, God, for that. So the timing has changed a bit, so you want to make sure you have your notifications on so that you don't miss them when they are released. And of course, share this video. People need to hear and be prepared. I know what I shared today is not light by any stretch of the imagination, but I also know that the preparation that you have the opportunity to have because you heard this is massive. And I know the kind of impact that it has on your life. I want to encourage you to think about the people in your network who would benefit from hearing the message so that they can too be prepared. I thank you again for listening. I look forward to getting to meet you and spend time with you as you become a part of the Healing Crusade, as you continue on in our family here on YouTube. And if there's any way that I can support you, please don't, please feel comfortable to reach out and let me know. Thank you. I wish you, as always, peace and blessings. See you in October.